Hi everyone, welcome to Living Consciously. I'm Carol Carnes. Today I'm speaking about the care and feeding of your mind, which really is our greatest asset. Because everything begins in mind, everything begins in the invisible realm of ideas and comes through us, not to us, into our life, reflecting the content of what we know, what we believe, and who we think we are. This is called New Thought Spirituality, and it's about how a new thought about anything can change a situation. But the mind really needs to be prepared to receive new thoughts. It's like soil that needs to be aerated, it needs to be nourished, it needs to have the proper nutrients in order to receive new seed and have it flourish. So it's important to take care of our mind. Most people never think about it. Like we don't think about most things that are really important. I was thinking this morning about how much I've traveled in the world and how many different hotels I've stayed in, and probably you have too. But you remember on the back of the door, there's always a set of instructions about how to escape, what to do and not do should there be some kind of natural disaster, a fire or an earthquake or something like that. And for the most part, we just ignore them. Nobody ever reads them because we're convinced that nothing like that is ever going to happen to us. And of course, if it did, we probably wish we had read it because it's something that could save our lives and get us out of this predicament. So as an analogy, when we ignore the proven tools for keeping the mind fed, for keeping the mind centered and optimistic and in a receptive mode to take in new ideas, we're really playing with fire, you might say, because the mind is creative. And so the content of it, or the subconscious content of it, is extremely important. And it has a couple of different aspects. It has a local aspect, which we use to look out at the world and say, well, there's Johnny, hi Johnny, or I wonder if I have any mail today, or things I should buy at the store. But it also has a non-local aspect to it, which is key to this teaching. And that non-local aspect is one with a field of infinite intelligence. And in our own experience, it's our subconscious mind, which is linked to the universal subjective. I want to read you something just to make that point a little clearer. That was written by Carl Jung, the great psychoanalyst, analyst, who really discovered the power of the subconscious mind. Now, when he uses the word unconscious, he doesn't mean you're not aware. He means that the local mind isn't aware of what's going on in the unconscious. He said the unconscious has an extension that can reach anywhere. We have absolutely no means of establishing a definite frontier of it, or we cannot say where the world ends. We cannot also say where the unconscious ends or whether it ends anywhere. So what he's saying is our mind is vast, and it is a field of all possibility. It is a field of our potential, and we draw from it when we leave the local observations, perceptions, and begin to perceive life from this more spiritual or infinite aspect. Now, in order to provide that mind with the highest ideas, which means it can mean the solution to a problem, it needs some maintenance. It means daily maintenance. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the tools for keeping the mind in good shape, just like you would your car, or your house. You've got to do some maintenance. In fact, I did an article one time about how life is all about maintenance. It seems we're always maintaining something, whether it's our car or our business or our relationship or our house. There's always something that needs to be kept in shape. The mind is no different. We just haven't been taught that, and we don't usually think about it. So one of the things it needs is regular silence. We need to live in solitude part of our life. Now, we have families around us, perhaps. If I live alone, so I don't have that problem, but those of you who have a lot of people in your house, You're not going to get any silence unless you make it happen. So what you do is take yourself into another room, close the door, and let everybody know, do not bother me for the next 20 minutes. I'm going to be meditating, or I'm going to be sitting in silence. You can get to me later. They'll survive, right? I mean, when I started meditating, I trained my children, they observed, and they just stopped bothering me during that time, unless it was important. Okay, so silence seems to be one of the keys to a kind of long-lasting inner peace, which isn't about the kind, when we think of peace as no activity, no, it's about stability. I talk about this all the time, I'm sure I have on some of these other programs, but it's about a kind of emotional stability, inner stability, and a very much an optimistic mode, a sense of cheerful expectancy. What else does the mind need? None of these things will be revolutionary to you or a radical idea, but it's something we don't necessarily give much attention to. The mind needs beauty. You know, it needs to see beauty around it. And that could be bringing fresh flowers into your home. It could mean walking in nature. It could mean having good art on your walls or art that appeals to you. It could mean seeing beauty where others see ugliness. And that comes from that silence. That comes from the emotional stability where you're able perhaps to look at something that someone else would say, that's not beautiful, and see it. Perhaps it's a crumbling old building or a weathered door. You know, I love old doors, old painted doors. And they're beautiful to me. The other thing the mind needs is order. You know, if it can be simply as simple as cleaning out a closet, straightening up your desk, filing your paid bills, paying your bills on time. The mind needs order, and the soul seeks order. I was just reading something the other day, I forget the source of it, but it was a legitimate, credible source, that was saying that people who live with a great deal of disorder, I'm not talking about creative clutter, where you have a lot of cute things around. I'm talking about disorder, piles of old newspapers or old mail you haven't opened, or all those things. This article said people like that tend to have mental problems. Now, we're not talking about mental illness. We're talking about anxiety, depression perhaps, low-grade depression, fear of the unknown, kind of a nervousness. The disorder is a reflection of an inner disorder. And conversely, which is really interesting, if we make ourselves clean up those messes, it does have an effect on our inner life. So you can work this from the outside in as well as the inside out. If the mind has some silence every day, it tends to become clearer and more stable and leads us to doing things that create order in our life. But if we make ourselves create the order, it has the same effect. It has an effect on the mind. That's called behavior modification, and it actually works. So you might want to think about that, you know, getting rid of things that you don't need anymore. Don't just shove them in a closet. Think about this as the part of the care and feeding of your mind. The mind also craves celebration, and that is a delight in being alive, which we might call joy. One of the ways to elicit that in ourselves is music. I just visited my daughter and her significant other in Los Angeles, and they have a vast collection of vinyl records and 45s, I mean, thousands of them. And her guy would say, what do you want to hear? I say, Sam Cooke, and he'd bring that out. And I say, I want to hear Latin jazz, and he'd bring that. They have everything you could ever imagine, and it's all filed alphabetically order, and they know where it is. So we were all up and dancing. And this is good for the mind. It's good for the soul. Any music that gets you up and dancing is worth doing. And also music that takes you someplace. Have you ever heard some music so beautiful you actually cried a little? You don't know why, but it moves you. Yeah, exactly. That's also important because it puts us in that field where our mind kind of drifts. That's important. Let the mind become not unhinged, but unbound by the local thoughts of what to do next and what to maintain next and what to have for dinner and all that stuff. All right? So a healthy mind loves to love. And you don't necessarily have to have one person who you're committed to, although it's wonderful to allow yourself to have that experience. I'm talking about just being in love. Caring for a pet will do it. You know, there's all kinds of studies that have shown what petting a cat or dog or even having a goldfish in your house does to the mind. It calms it down. It centers it. It keeps it in a healthy state. So loving something. Now, you can love a particular place and it has the same effect on you. You know, do you remember Uncle Remus and the Song of the South, one of my favorite movies, and those wonderful stories from Africa about Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox and Brer Bear? Well, Brer Rabbit was always being chased by those other two guys, and he had what he called his laughing place. My laughing place is Hawaii. I lived there for many years, raised my kids there. I can think about Hawaii and go into that field of imagination, and I can feel the air, the soft air, and I can smell the plumerias. I am there. That's what your mind can do, and it loves that. It loves to love anything. So let's give ourselves reasons to feel the love that's in us. There's plenty of them, all kinds of love available to us. So the mind needs also big ideas. The mind gets bored with repetition. You're not giving it anything to do. If every day's the same, you know, I often joke, people they leave their house, they go to work, they go to the grocery store. In California, I'd say Trader Joe's. Home, work, Trader Joe's. Home, work, Albertsons. Home, work, gas station. And that's about it. And then on the weekend, they try to cram all kinds of activities in to feel more alive. No, the mind needs bigger ideas. It needs to see something new. It likes newness. So take a different route to work. Wear a red hat. Do something to shake up your routine, because the mind really needs that kind of diverse experience. It needs big ideas. So we're going to take a break in a minute, and we're going to talk about some of those bigger ideas. You know, ideas of what if? What if I suddenly did this or that? What if I left this dead-end job? What if? It's important for us to ask those questions of ourselves, and the mind will give us some answers. So we have some wonderful sponsors. I'm very thankful to those sponsors for helping us be on the air and helping the station stay on the air. So take a listen to what they have to say and come back in a few minutes, and we have some more big ideas for you.
Attention homeowners, apartment complexes and business parks and homeowners associations. Now is the best time to make your property beautiful again. Since 1967, Gonzalez Landscaping has offered beautiful professional landscaping services to all of southern New Mexico. Our team has been designing and installing landscapes for over 47 years. Where quality is an obsession, Gonzalez Landscaping is locally owned and operated. We are licensed commercial, residential specialists dedicated to providing reliable and quality service. We offer residential and commercial landscaping design, full lawn, tree and shrub care, with annuals and perennials, tree and palm trimming, spring and fall cleanups, mulching and more. Let us do the work at prices you can afford. We service all of Las Cruces. We are New Mexico's premier commercial landscaping and residential landscaping company. Visit us online at gonzalesnursery.com or call us for a free estimate. 575-382-7272.
Welcome to La Buena Vida Women's Club, located away from the crowds but close to home. Come in throughout the day for Jazzercise, the world's dance fitness leader for nearly 40 years. Treat yourself to a relaxing massage. Or unwind in the lounge area or outside on the balcony with friends. La Buena Vida Women's Club, located and designed with women in mind. For information, call Diane at 650-9721.
Hi there, we're back. Thank you to our sponsors. Well, I promised you we would talk more about the care and feeding of mind and giving you some tools to do that. And it's a daily practice, just like brushing your teeth or combing your hair, whatever else we do on a regular basis. It is extremely important because the mind is creative. All right, so let's talk about how it's creative. We live in a field of infinite possibility. We live in a mind that is not two minds, but has two functions. It thinks locally about what's in front of us, and it can think non-locally about what's possible. That's the field of imagination. They are equally important, and what the local mind allows to come in every day gets stored in that subjective, subconscious field, and we need to be very careful what we allow to go in. Now, this doesn't mean we're afraid of what we see on the news, but we counteract it. And I do it all the time. When I see something on the news that I find problematic, I just say, I don't believe that. And then I state what I do believe. I think humanity is on the brink of a great awakening. I'll say that when someone says, we're in such trouble. That doesn't mean we ignore the conditions. It means we stay open to the bigger idea, the solution. So the mind likes big ideas. It likes to say, what if, right? It doesn't want to be lulled to sleep, and we lull it to sleep when we're doing things like binge watching TV. Once in a while, that's okay. You make a choice to do it. But we're talking about a lifestyle, right? Your lifestyle is important. How much time do we give to this inner life, which is far more important than the outer one, because it creates the outer one. You know, I was talking to someone earlier today about this truth. And the whole world doesn't know this yet, even though it's been taught and taught and taught by the ancients and by Hindu scripture and Jesus and Buddha and more. There has been a lot of learned teachings on this subject that people just ignore. And that is, your mind creates your life, period. The content of your mind is reflected in your experience, period. And we need to take care of it, and you need to filter what goes in, and you need to replenish it with good ideas, with big ideas, with high ideas, with what if ideas. So the question is, you know, you can ask yourself some important questions. What would my life be like if I stopped worrying about anything? What would my life be like if I stopped worrying about money? And the mind will come up with something. And it will allow us to think in a new way if we just give ourselves this practice. So asking yourself big questions is a really useful thing to do. The other thing the mind does is regulate the body. So this has a health component as well. Everyone knows there's intelligence running this body, but it can be interfered with a lot of negative thinking. The cells take instructions from thought. They are signals from the environment, and the environment, one of the signals is thought. The other is toxicity, of course, and trauma. But thought is the most important and the most immediate, and so we can control that. I asked a teenager once, a young boy, I said, how come you're not doing drugs and alcohol and stuff like that all your friends are doing? And so he pointed to his head and he said, I don't want to anesthetize this. I want to see what it can do. What a wonderful attitude. What can this thing do? Well, it's everything that we call good in the world was done by the mind, and everything we call bad. All of it originated in some human's mind as a good idea. Hey, that's a good idea. I think I'll create a rocket ship. Oh, that's a good idea. I think I'll do this or that. It all starts in the mind. So the care and feeding of the mind is really important. I quoted from a book by Dr. Larry Dossey, who was a physician who became quite a well-known metaphysician, speaking on the subject of non-local mind and local mind and its connection to healing in the physical body. because he noticed in his practice, I believe he was an internist, he noticed in his practice that too often people spontaneously got healed or the disease disappeared and nobody could explain it. And he noticed that too often medical people would try to dismiss it. Well, we misdiagnosed it. They never were sick in the first place. And he realized that wasn't true, that something else was happening. And so he researched it and he categorized different things, and he came up with this book called Recovering the Soul. I'm going to tout this. It's out of print, but you can get it, I believe, on Amazon. Worth a read. And it really tells you how the mind affects the body. So, thoughts of wholeness, thoughts of I am one with the source of all life, the very power and intelligence that created me in its image and likeness is present in my mind. You see, it's present in that field of subjectivity. We are one with it. It's a universal field. And when you go into your imagination, you have left the field of limitation. You are now in the boundless field of spirit, you might say. You are now in the subjective mind of God, if you want to use religious language. You are now in tune with the infinite. And you can draw from it. Not only can you put ideas into it and have them come through you, you can gain ideas from that field. You go in with a question. What if? What if I were to suddenly just love every moment of my life? What would happen? These are good questions. And, you know, I wrote on Facebook the other day that we have to, right now, more than, maybe since I was 2 years old, I'm living more in the moment than ever. And that's always been a good idea. But right now, it's a really good idea to see beauty, to see order, to see possibility, not to resist, but to insist on my integrity, my wholeness, my being, my ability to make changes through my perception. So I want to read you a little bit of what Larry Dossey wrote on the subject of non-local thinking, and he talked about it as healing. He says, this spontaneous spiritual healing takes place, the experience of love, when this takes place, the experience of love and non-locality are so tightly connected, they cannot be teased apart. So when there's a spontaneous healing, when suddenly things get better, it's because we have entered into the realm of the non-local. We no longer see the limitations of time-space, but we're in that other realm, and we are in love. Love is alive in us, and we're proclaiming. It's called Look for the Good and Praise It. And we're singing a song of praise to the one. I am whole. I am complete. I am an emanation of the living spirit. My life is an individualized expression of it. I love my life, and I honor and glorify the source of my life by revealing the good in me. I live to love. You know, this is a song of praise, and it has a profound effect on the body. So, you know, in his book, Recovering the Soul by Dr. Larry Dossey, he tells many, many true stories about people who've had spontaneous healings because of a change in their perception. So psychic healing or spiritual healing is instantaneous in the moment. It is beyond medical intervention, no local explanation for it. You know, people call these miracles. They're not. We call them miracles because we don't initiate them enough. We don't pay attention enough. We dismiss them, right? So, but they're magical moments in our life, and they're always unexplainable by local means, by time-space answers. You know, it's like suddenly the answer just appears. The solution is right in front of you. The gift comes. The thing you desired shows up. What was lost is found. You know, these are the many miracles, you might say, but they're a result of us being in tune with a higher purpose, a higher power, and calling it our own to demonstrate. My friend Michael Beckwith says, we download God. We download the Spirit by raising our language to agree with what it would say about us if it was a being that could talk, right? It's a field. It's a field of consciousness. So always the local mind, the non-local mind, is dominant in the cases of sudden, instantaneous manifestations of our desires. So the practice is to think non-locally and act locally. You've probably heard the saying about thinking globally and acting locally, but I think non-locally from your spiritual sense, and then act accordingly in the world. It's a practice. It's a practice. When I say think non-locally, I'm meaning thinking from the consciousness of wholeness and having a complete trust in the power that is to make all things new by means of you, by means of our expression. So, if our desire is for more love in the world, we say, I am loving and I now love. I now allow myself to see through the appearance and love the differences and love the diversity. This is spirit in action. Mind finds the most amazing ways to bring about the desired result when it's in good condition. So take care of your mind. All right, Mesilla Valley Center for Spiritual Living has an event on Sunday morning at 10:30 at the Town Community Center in Mesilla. It's on Calle de Santiago. It's a beautiful space. And we do a different kind of Sunday morning. I get you involved. We do a 10-minute or so meditation because everybody needs some silence, and that's one way to get it. And then I do a talk, something like I do here. But afterwards, I get everybody involved in a discussion, and people come up with the most amazing insights and perceptions that have come from the experience they've had that morning. They ask questions, and it's really a wonderful way to start your week. It is really beautiful. There's nothing superstitious or dogmatic about it. We don't try to get you to sign up for anything. We just want to give this teaching to the world. So we do it on Sunday morning. Our website, mvcsl.org. You can donate to us, and we'd really appreciate that. We're a nonprofit, 501(c). We belong to an international organization, but we generate our own income. So we'd love to have you donate via PayPal. My personal email is ccarnes7@gmail. You can write me if you want to, or you can get on my website, which is carolcarnes.com. All right, I think that about covers it. I wish you well. Take care of your mind, and I'll see you next time. In the meantime, stay tuned in.